This one, didn't they? The choir. Wow, I want to stand up and sing with them. Because Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed.
I want to begin by telling a little story about a little boy, about a 3-year-old boy named Timmy. It was Easter morning and he just discovered an Easter basket in his home. You know, kids can't wait to look in every nook and cranny to find what might be there. And so he found his Easter basket, and his mother told him that, this was a gift from the Easter Bunny. So later that day, little Timmy was asked to say grace for dinner. And so this is how he prayed. Bless, O Lord, these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bunny. Well, can't really blame the little guy, can you? I mean, Easter is a very, very fun, the Easter Bunny is a very fun Easter tradition, but it's kind of hard to make a meaningful hop between a rabbit and the resurrection. You see, Easter is the most important day on the Christian calendar. Easter is about life rising out of death, hope springing in the midst of despair, defeat swallowed up in victory. It's also about the transformation that can be made in a person's life, in our life, as we put our hope and our trust in the presence of the risen Christ. It's like something Pastor William Willimon once described. He was telling about a problem that he has. He claims that every time he tries to pigeonhole people into some sort of rigid category, they always surprise him. Just when he thinks he's got the sheep and the goats carefully separated in his mind, one of his goats does something extraordinary, something foolishly generous and loving. And so he has to throw out all of his categories and start all over again. For example, one week, Willimon was preparing a sermon on helping the less fortunate. And just in the hallway outside of his office, he heard a conversation among some of his members. One older gentleman by the name of Harry was describing that the poor, well, they should just be given jobs to do. If they don't do those jobs, then let them just starve. Well, that didn't sound very Christian to Willimon, so he thought he'd have to, set this old gentleman straight. So he called Harry into his office, but before Willimon could speak, Harry asked him a question. He says, "Are you aware of what's going on in Haiti right now?" And Harry went on to explain that they had a swine epidemic, and it had decimated the pig population in Haiti, and that many families would starve without help. Well, how did Harry know this? Well, Harry knew because he and his wife had spent the last 2 vacations building a public health clinic in Haiti. And now they had taken $5,000 out of their own savings to buy pigs for Haitian farmers. And he was wondering if the church could match that money and donate at least $5,000 or more. So all of a sudden, Willimon says that speech he was about to give the old gentleman about not caring for the less fortunate, well, that kind of evaporated thin air. And once again, his categories have been all messed up. Yes, we need to be careful about trying to put people into neat little pigeonholes, liberal, conservative, Christian, non-Christian, believer, unbeliever, because people will surprise us. The person that might sound like they have the hardest heart might turn out to be one of the most generous persons around. People are not always what they seem to be on the surface. And the good news is, people change. Take outspoken Simon Peter. Now, who would have ever thought that Simon Peter would turn out to be the rock that steadied the early church? I mean, who would have ever figured this out except Jesus? Who could have ever seen that coming? It's kind of like the old joke from vaudeville. One man says to another, he says, "Ask me why I brush my teeth with gunpowder." And the other replies, "Okay, why do you brush your teeth with gunpowder?" And the first one answers, "Because I like to shoot off my mouth." Doesn't that describe Simon Peter pretty well? Simon liked to shoot off his mouth quite often. And yet here we see Simon Peter in the book of Acts. He's not shooting off his mouth at all. Rather, he's becoming a very powerful and very persuasive preacher of the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It was Simon Peter who delivered that first powerful sermon on Pentecost that resulted in 3,000 Jews responding to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they were baptized. Now, who could have predicted that? After all, it was Peter and all the other disciples as well, out of fear, just ran away from Christ. But Peter had actually denied that he even knew Jesus. But now here he is in the book of Acts, putting his neck on the line and telling everyone that Jesus is the Messiah. He is the Son of the living God. And more than that, Peter becomes a driving force in the early church. The wavering reed blowing in the wind had indeed become a solid rock. In fact, in Acts 10, it's Peter, Simon Peter, who sees this vision of unclean animals that Jews are not supposed to eat. And he sees this vision of these creatures, and the God saying, "Don't call them unclean anymore." And so it gives not only Peter permission, but it becomes almost an obligation that now we must share the good news of the gospel, not just with the Jews, but with the Gentiles as well. They must be permitted to believe on Christ and become members of His church. So Simon Peter becomes a visionary leader of the early church. And we might wonder, how in the world did this happen? How can we explain such a profound transformation in a human being? Well, do you think that maybe Easter had something to do with it? I'm pretty sure it did. I mean, we all know the story of Easter. We have grown up in church. We probably know it pretty much by heart. I mean, earlier the first day of the week, in our scripture lesson in the morning, we see it was Mary Magdalene who came to the tomb. And she saw that the stone had been rolled away. And so when she saw that, she immediately ran to tell two of Jesus' closest disciples, Simon Peter and John. And she says to them, "They have taken the Lord's body, and we don't know where they have laid him." And so Peter and John, when they hear this news, they go running towards the tomb. I mean, that alone is interesting. Two grown men running to the tomb. I mean, they're not expecting what they have just heard. No doubt they're thinking the very same thing that Mary Magdalene thought. Somebody, who would ever do this? Who would steal Jesus' body out of the tomb? It's bad enough they had him crucified, and now they've stolen his body? And so they run to the tomb to see if it's really true. Is his body gone? Because as of yet, they never realized that Jesus must die and must rise from the dead. Well, John is younger and he's faster than Peter, so he gets to the tomb first. He bends down and he looks in and he sees the linen wrappings there, but he hesitates to go in. He stays outside the tomb. But Simon Peter, when he arrives, of course, Simon is a very bold person, and so he immediately goes into the tomb and he too sees the grave clothes lying there. And then finally John comes in, and according to John's gospel, he simply writes that he saw and he believed. Even though all the other disciples did not realize the scripture that he must die, that he must rise from the dead. And then they go home. They go back home. No doubt they're confused, they're troubled. Perhaps they're a little bit frightened what is going on here. And so this is how the Easter story begins. It begins with confusion, it begins with uncertainty, it begins with doubt. But then the risen Christ begins making appearances. So after Mary Magdalene went to the tomb first and saw that the body wasn't there, she goes home and tells Peter and John. And then after Peter and John are there, then Mary goes back to the tomb. And that's where Mary has the encounter that we read in our scripture lesson with the risen Christ. And then there's the appearance of Jesus in the upper room with the disciples. And then Jesus meeting two of the disciples on the road to Emmaus. And then there's Jesus leading the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. And that scene by the Sea of Galilee is a fascinating scene because it's there that the risen Christ carefronts Simon Peter. I mean, we all heard the story, I'm sure. We remember, we have our own pictures of how it looks and how it happened in our minds. But it's a powerful moment as Jesus asks Peter, Peter, do you love me? Wow. How would you like Jesus to ask you that question? Do you love me? And Peter says, well, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus says to him, feed my sheep. And 3 times this question is asked and answered, Peter, do you love me? And 3 times Peter gives basically the same answer, Lord, you know that I love you. And 3 times Jesus gives the command, feed my sheep. Now scholars speculate that Jesus asked Peter 3 times because, well, after all, Simon Peter denied that he knew Jesus 3 times. But there's one thing that's really clear. While all